In 2012, I had never competed in a running race or a triathlon as an adult. Then in 2016, I represented my country, Team GB, in my age group at the European Middle Distance Triathlon Championships in Austria. And honestly, it was so simple. All I did was follow 5 core concepts that I created over the years that I'm now going to share with you so that you can follow them. And it really doesn't matter whether you're a triathlete or a runner or a cyclist or anything else, you can apply them anyway. And you know what? I hope I do enough to convince you to subscribe, but you know, I'm not your boss. So the question hopefully you're asking right now is, how did I achieve it and how can you crush your own goals? It's actually pretty simple. It needs to be because I'm a PE teacher, but I got good at the 5 core concepts that were planned, learned, tested, analysed and varied, and I'm going to talk you through how I utilised planning to make sure that I was getting the best out of myself all of the time. Sorry, that was quite punchy. So basically, I knew I was a beginner. I knew that I had no experience in triathlon whatsoever and had never run a race as an adult, even though I'd run as a kid. So what I did was I sat down and I put together a 4-year plan. I'm going to get from here to here. So I looked at events. What kind of things did I think, if I wanted it to be about the process and not rushing it, what kind of things did I think that I could do each year in order to get me to eventually getting to Team GB? And for me, it kind of worked like this. I went, all right, first year, never done triathlons. Let's just focus on sprint triathlons. That was year 1. Year 2, I was like, well, I'll carry on learning about sprint triathlons. I'll chuck in an Olympic triathlon or 2, maybe. Year 3, Olympic triathlons. Let's get good at these. Let's try and build the distances because next year I'm going to have a pop at a 70.3 or what some people call a half Ironman. And year 4, bang, Olympic sprint, half Ironman as well. That is the goal. This is where I want to qualify for GB. And once I had my big picture, once I was kind of pinned into this long process, what I did was I looked each season as they came along and I was like, well, what events could I space out? What events could I do within this season that I think will bring out the best in me, that will play to my strengths, but also that I'll enjoy, because I really needed it to be about really enjoying this process all of the time. So I picked races I thought, yeah, that looks pretty cool. And once I planned each year, I planned my training to lead me up to each of the events. And there's many more videos on my channel about how you prepare for an event, so I'm not going to go into detail there, but that was the big picture planning, season planning, training planning into races, and I made it all about the process. I knew then I didn't have to rush. I've actually got 4 years. I don't need to feel pressure. I can just enjoy the journey, which is what this channel is all about, right? I had good races, I had bad races, but every time I learn. Which brings us on to point 2. The second core concept that I followed was what I like to call learn. And what I did here was surround myself with people who I could learn loads from and who could push me so that I could learn about my body as well. I strongly believe that this journey is all about being humble and surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. So the first thing I did was I joined my local tri club. Big shout out to Sevenoaks Tri Club here, and I met some phenomenal people. I met Sam here on the first day, and he's an outstanding triathlete and we've been friends ever since. But everyone pushed me and I learned so much from the club, even being inspired to do my level 2 and 3 triathlon coaching qualifications to learn even more. And I wanted to push my running on, so I joined Sevenoaks Athletics Club too, and we ran in sessions on the track. I mean, where do you think I learned some of the sessions that I've made videos about? And I ran cross country for them over many seasons. Oh, and pop trivia, guess who else ran for Sevenoaks Athletics Club in a bizarre twist? That's right, good old channel favourite Johnny Boy. So I made relationships with people who inspired me, pushed me, helped me learn and helped me be better. And let me just say, if you're like me and you mainly train alone, there is definitely a place for clubs and running or competing with others. You cannot push yourself as much as you do when you're surrounded by nutters just like you. I've run speeds and distances I never even thought possible because of it. So get out and learn about yourself and how to maximize your training. And by the way, this channel's not a bad resource either. The third core concept that I got good at was testing. And you can take this in a couple of ways, but basically I wanted to see what my body can do and also what it can't do. So the first thing that I started doing was I started doing individual events, from park runs to half marathons. I did cycling sportives where I cycled for 120 kilometers and tried not to perish, and I did 160 kilometer time trials, so on different bikes. I swam in different situations. I was pushing my body, nudging it, seeing what it can do. But also, you can take testing to mean, which is the other thing that I did, was I looked at what my body needed to be better at. So I got myself a run analysis. I wanted to see what my technique was like and how I could improve it. I got myself a bike fit and a bike analysis. I had a swim analysis. I even had a strength and conditioning analysis, workout, what could I do better? And then I went to see a physio who looked at my body and worked out what I needed to strengthen, what was weak, where I needed treatment. So I was almost seeing myself as a puzzle in all of these different ways, and it turned into a bit of a game, which I absolutely loved, by the way, because then it was just fun. Everything that I did was a bit of fun. How can I improve here? What could I do there? What's this part of the puzzle? And I absolutely loved the whole process of testing myself, just comparing myself to me. How can I get better? And I loved it.
And then once I've navigated the first 3 core concepts, the 4th core concept, or phase almost, was analyze. And it was the stage at which I started to learn how to really look at my race results, but also my session results and data, and analyze it to know what it actually really meant for me, and then how to get the best out of myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the 3 ways that I learned to analyze the data. One was to make sure that I could identify my weaknesses and then make sure I can work on them, and that was a long-term process. The second one, still slightly more longer term, but how I used the data to make sure that the training was having an effect and I was going in the right direction. And the final one is much more short-term, how I used data from session to session, again to make sure the right things were happening. So the first thing I did was I got good at analysing my race results so that I could see what needed work before the next race. Hang on, I've got to show you a visual. Here we go, let me set this up. All right. Now, the first thing was that I realised it was a completely flawed logic to compare times, because when you compare times, no 2 courses are the same, right? So you could have a hilly bike course or a flat bike course, could be an open water swim or a pool swim. So this is the technique I came up with, and it was percentages of where I placed in the field over the swim, bike, run. I'm going to show you visually using the sky behind me, right? So here is my 2012. In fact, this was my first ever triathlon. This was 2012, and as you can see quite clearly, my percentage wise in terms of my run was very, very low, so it means I did very well in the run, but the bike and the swim needed some work. So I took the winter. That is my next year, that's 2013, right? You can see not much has changed. In fact, you can see there is a little bit of improvement, but improvements don't happen over just 1 year. That is 2014, and it's significant because although it doesn't look like it's changed much, that's an Olympic distance triathlon and that is a sprint distance triathlon. So I was really happy I was able to carry those numbers over. And after 3 winters of hard graft, boom, that's what happened. This is an Olympic distance triathlon. You can see that my hard work on the bike and on the swim really paid dividends, and suddenly I'd taken my weaknesses and I'd turned them into more strengths. I was ready to do a middle distance triathlon and hopefully, well, actually did qualify for GB. But that's how I interpreted the race results. And if you want to translate that to just running, by the way, then I'd do the same. I'd calculate my percentage of where I finished within my age group within the race. Same kind of benefit. Then again, slightly long term, but as I say, this is the way I use data to confirm that my training was going in the right way. I use an app called Connect Stats. I'm going to put it next to Mary running right here. But basically you can see year on year, the difference over the whole year, all of my sessions, what my average working heart rate was. And year on year, it came down, and I wasn't changing up the sessions, I was just getting fitter. So that again, long term, was confirming I was going in the right direction. And finally, I learned how to analyze data from session to session. And if you take my most recent marathon training block, here's my last 3 long runs out on the road. And if you look at them here, you can quite clearly see that even though the distance goes up each week, either the pace increases or the working heart rate comes down, or both, which is boom town. That's when you know you're making really good progress, is when you're getting faster over a longer distance for a lower working heart rate. And it's that simple to know that you're making good progress.
The fifth and final concept that I followed was that I kept everything varied and interesting. And that's not to say I never did the same session twice, that's crazy. But it's simply that I decided that there was a place for everything in my training. From open water swimming to sea swimming, or swimming in the pool alone or with others. And then I did a lot of road cycling, but I also spent way too long on a turbo trainer. I rode on my TT bike outside, and I even played around on mountain bikes from time to time. And then when it came to my running, I ran on roads obviously, but I also ran a lot of trails. And then sometimes I went to the track, and on the occasion I had to face the treadmill. But the variation didn't stop there. I made sure sometimes I would do hard sessions, or sometimes I'd do intervals on the track or hard workouts on the turbo trainer. I'd learn about tempo sessions or threshold sessions, and I'd do those. There's just something in me that wants to know everything, which I know is impossible, but I kept it varied because I knew it was a great way of seeing what happened to me in lots of different situations and scenarios. And I know that a really good way to progress as a runner or a triathlete was to keep my body guessing, just never let it get too comfortable. And by making sure I kept it varied, it benefits some of my other core concepts like learn, because I'm always finding new sessions for situations, and testing, seeing what my body does in those different situations. It all links together and interplays so nicely.
Hopefully this video has helped you in some way plan your training for the future, but if you want to dive much more into the detail, there's a ton of videos on individual sessions on this channel that are definitely going to help you. And if you like the video, then I'm certain you're going to like this one, which was how I took 20 minutes off of my marathon PB and went sub 3 within a few months. All there to help you. Thanks for watching. See you Sunday.
Bye.